All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Between the Numbers Sports Show. We're doing something different today. Got the big homie, young Mark from the Real Two Sports podcast. Right, I found those guys over on Twitter. I was happy to be a host on their show, so it was only right to get one of them back in here. Hopefully, we can get everybody on one of the shows. But we're gonna do something a little bit different on Sunday. Hope everyone having a good Sunday. Mark, go ahead and let the world know who you is.
Hey man, what's going on, everybody? I'm Young Mark. I bring you ties and greetings from the Real to Sports podcast. Happy to be back with my main man Darrell talking some college football. I'm the resident college football expert on the Real to Sports podcast, so you got the right guy. Let's get into it.
Yes, sir. All right. So, hey, we're going, like I said, we're gonna be doing things a little bit different. We're gonna be kind of doing like a round table type deal. We got a couple of different topics. So we're gonna be starting off with football and that NIL, man. So recently, Phil Knight, the owner of sorry, not the owner, but the creator, the founder of Nike, he stepped down as the chairman in 2004. But he came out and said that he's pretty much desperate. You know, Oregon has never won a national championship in football before. And he said that he was willing to provide Oregon with unlimited NIL resources. So with that being said, do you think Oregon's access to unlimited NIL resources, money pretty much, you think that's gonna, change the make a difference for Oregon or not?
I think it can, because as an athlete, there is no bigger like individual feat that you can have than having a endorsement deal with a big shoe company. And a lot of the athletes who come out nowadays, that top company is Nike, especially considering the creative things they've done with Oregon and their uniforms over the last like decade or so, especially during that Chip Kelly era. They were the flyest team in college football, in my opinion. So having that NIL resource in Nike should definitely help them with recruiting, I feel like. And not to mention, Oregon's already a really good program. Dan Lanning has that program flying high right now. So the sky's the limit. They're joining the Big Ten. So I'm kind of curious to see like how that Oregon play style is going to mesh against teams like Iowa, teams like Ohio State, teams like Michigan that play tough, hard-nosed defense and also can run the ball really well. So I want to see how they match up with those Big Ten teams. But definitely having Nike in your back pocket to kind of sway a recruit is definitely going to help them out in the long run.
Yeah, and Phil's an alumni of Nike, but yeah, I was on X yesterday busting them bars up because, well, okay, to stay on track, I think it's going to help. I mean, if you look at Nike, I mean not Nike, if you look at Oregon's recruiting from the month of let's say June, right, last month, they've been going crazy. They stole the Carrion Moore. He's the number one rated wide receiver out of Texas. He was committed to LSU and he decommitted. And once he decommitted, I already knew it was about money. You know what I mean? I always say get paid, but I knew it was about money. I mean, Phil Knight, it's worked estimated $30 billion, over $30 billion, right? So ain't nobody in college football, no one's NIL collective has that much money. Has that much money to throw around. But yeah, I mean, they took Decorian Moore, they took a couple of other guys um, just recently, and so I think NIL is definitely going to help. Everybody wants to get paid, right? And what better way to get paid than having the founder of Nike saying that, hey, he's pretty much desperate, right? He's 86 years old. He wants to see a national championship. They got the coach, Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning is a dog, right?
Mhm.
And I always said, before Oregon was known, well, Oregon has never been known for national championships, but they've been known for having some fly jerseys, right? And so, before Phil Knight came out and said that about unlimited NIL, I mean, Oregon was already hot on a trail for recruiting. So, this can definitely help. Just hoping that it don't turn out like Texas A&M. Like 2 years ago, Texas A&M had that number one ranked recruiting
Yeah.
class. Pretty much all of those guys have transferred, right? But some people were saying, "Oh, well, look at Texas A&M," but I also say look at Florida State, right? Look what Florida State did last year. Florida State and Colorado pretty much won the transfer portal last season, and Florida State was their quarterback away from going to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Travis Jordan got hurt, unfortunately. Did I say his name right? Jordan Travis.
Yeah, Jordan Travis. Yeah.
Yeah, Jordan Travis got hurt, and then they pretty much screwed Florida State from there. But it worked for Florida. Yeah, it worked for Florida State. So I think if you got the right coach and you get the right guys in there, that's all on the same sheet of paper that all want to win a championship, then I think it can happen.
I think Oregon's like been knocking on the door for a national title for a number of years now. With Chip Kelly and then Marcus Mariota, and then as recently as Bo Nix
Yeah,
last year. I think if they could have made a couple more plays against Washington, they would have definitely been in the playoff for sure. But I'm curious to see if they can uh, rebuild that quarterback room. I'm not too sold on Dylan Gabriel.
yeah,
Haven't watched him for a couple of years, so I don't know if I should expect like a down year from Oregon or if they'll be able to bounce back. But definitely, if Dan Lanning was being like recruited and try to be lured away by Alabama to replace Nick Saban, that tells you all you need to know about the caliber of coach that he is. So, if not that, then look at what the way he rallied that team before the Colorado game
yeah,
is another example. So, whatever dudes they get in there, I don't think they'll just be all about money with the NIL or anything like that. I think Dan Lanning's going to use that to help leverage getting some recruits, but I think the dudes that he brings in they're going to be all about football and nothing else.
yeah, yeah. All righty. All right, so let's pivot to. All right, let's remove that one. Let's talk about Ryan Day, right? So Oregon is moving to the Big Ten, right?
Yeah.
Oregon's coming, UCLA is coming, right? And so Ryan Day is in a tough situation, right? So he's been beaten by Michigan. Well, his team has been beaten by Michigan the last 3 years, right? So Jim goes to the NFL, and Ryan Day is probably like, finally. But then here comes USC, here comes Oregon, and here comes UCLA knocking at the Big Ten, right? Now, USC is in shambles right now. They had a top 10 recruiting class, and then they lost two bookend defensive ends on the same day a few weeks ago, and they're sitting somewhere around number 24 in the recruiting class. But hey, you know how it is. The kids
Yeah.
they come and go, so we'll see. But for the 2025 recruiting class, they're sitting at like number 24. But here you go. You got USC, you got UCLA coming, and you got Oregon coming. And now Ryan Day, I was looking at something. Ryan Day has one of the most talented rosters in the Big Ten, maybe in all of college football this season. They got a really great recruiting class. They got the kid from Ole Miss Junkins. They got the center from Alabama. They got Will Howard, I believe his name is, from Kansas, if I'm saying that right. And so it looks like the stars are aligning. But do you think Rondé has pressure? You think his seats maybe heating up just a little bit, or you think it's just media trying to create a firestorm?
If Jim Harbaugh would have never left to go to the NFL, then I would say the seat would be incredibly hot for Ryan Day right now because no matter what you do at Ohio State, mission number one above all else is uh, beat Michigan. So if Jim Harbaugh was still there, I think the pressure would be on him because of that. Like you said, having lost to Michigan multiple years in a row now. But now that Harbaugh is gone, I really think Ryan Day is under the least amount of pressure in the Big Ten, in my opinion. The coach I think is really on the hot seat in that conference is Lincoln Riley. That's just me. But if I'm Ryan Day, I already have a talented roster. I just added Chip freaking Kelly as my offensive coordinator. So that's already a tremendous boost having Ryan Day and Chip Kelly drawing up plays in college football. Good luck stopping that offense. Like we mentioned in the previous segment, I don't know about Oregon's quarterback situation right now, so I'm not too concerned about them. Washington's in a complete rebuild. Lincoln Riley, as talented as he is calling plays on the offensive side of the ball, the one thing that's plagued him throughout his career is that he cannot recruit a defense to save his life. So I'm not too worried about USC. UCLA's been down a little bit. So really, if I'm Ohio State and I'm Ryan Day, outside of maybe Penn State, Iowa, or Oregon, I'm not really too concerned with anybody in the conference on that schedule. So I think Ryan Day, like you said, the stars are kind of aligned where he's got like a clear cut path forward to the college football playoff this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's for me. I think, like you said, UCLA. Well, USC. By the way, Paul Feinbaum just went nuclear on Lincoln Riley. I
Yeah,
don't know if you've seen that, but
I
yeah,
did. It's justified.
Lincoln Riley went out and got the defensive coordinator from UCLA, and they're pretty much changing their whole defensive philosophy. They're trying to get their guys in there. I was looking at their recruiting class, and they're beginning to land some guys from down south, right? They're beginning to land some SEC guys. They had a couple of guys from Auburn, the Auburn transfer in there, so they're getting some guys. It's not gonna manifest on the field this season. It takes a little while, right? But next season, I kind of expect USC to start to see the fruits of their labor in terms of flipping the defensive philosophy and trying to get a little bit more. Well, trying to go back to the USC defense that we used to know in the past, but it's also a good thing that that Ohio State has Chip Kelly, because Chip Kelly has played against USC and all of those guys, so he can pretty much tell Ryan Day, this is what they like to run. This is how you attack them on defense, X, Y, and Z. And here I had a graphic. I didn't put it up on the screen, but Ohio State has that. This is by position rankings, right, for the 2024 season, which is starting in 33 days. They have the number one. They have the number 4 ranked quarterback, the number 1 ranked running back, the number 3 ranked wide receiver and tight end, the number 6 offensive line, the number 1 defensive line, the number 10 linebacker group, and the number 1 defensive group. So that is from College Football PFF. And so Ohio State has top 10 position rooms all across the board. So I think Ryan Day Ryan Day has some. It feels like championship or bust. I don't think them making the playoffs is the goal. If you ask any college coach, everybody want to win a championship, but I feel like the goal for Ohio State is definitely championship or bust.
Yeah, I agree with you there because the last couple of times they've gotten to the college football playoff, they gotten close but got snuffed out at the end. Like I still to this day remember that heartbreaking loss they had to Georgia in the
Yeah,
semifinal game, like on New Year's Day, right when the clock struck 12. Homie missed a field goal, but that was a poetic ending. But yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think the pressure isn't necessarily so much for them to win the Big Ten, but definitely they are looking to win a national title because they feel like they're overdue. They haven't won the Natty, I don't think, since that initial college football playoff when they beat
2000,
Marcus Mariota.
2014,
Yeah,
2014, because
yeah.
they won it the year I got to California. So yeah, that was 2014. So all right, so we're gonna move on to your alumni, right? We're gonna move up to you went to this school. I don't know anything about this school, but um, talking about the Big 12, right? So will Oklahoma State Cowboys finally win the Big 12 and make the college football playoffs? I'll go first because this your stomping ground. I've always been a fan of Gundy, right? That's his last
Yeah,
name. A
Coach
man with the
Gundy.
mullet. I've always been a fan of him. I think he's one of those college football legends, before the stuff with Les Miles, right? We all know Les Miles had the off the stuff, field
Yeah,
stuff with harassment and all that stuff. Not talking about his behavior off the field. I'm just talking about one of those college football legends that did odd stuff, right? Les Miles, always running to run the ball, had the same toss sweep, had the same toss play, ate grass, all of that stuff, right? And Gundy with the mullet and some of the things that he said in the media. So I always did root for Oklahoma State. I used to play with them, and I used to play NCAA. I haven't played the new 25 yet, but I used to play with Oklahoma State because of their colors and all that stuff. But I think now that Texas and Oklahoma is gone, I think this thing is, I think it's wide open now. I know Utah went there, and Colorado is showing up too, right? Colorado's going out, so
yeah,
but I think outside of Kansas, Kansas State. I mean, you got Baylor that's still there. I think Oklahoma State got a good chance. I think they got a good chance to. I don't know. I think they got a good chance. You know, it's 12 spots for the college football playoff this year. So if I had to sell or buy, I think I'll buy. I'll buy a case that Oklahoma State could win the Big 12 and make the college football playoffs.
Well, just to make it official, so people understand, this is my student ID for my freshman year at Oklahoma State. So I legit did go to Oklahoma State, and as a former Cowboy, I have to admit, and I got to be real with you, I don't see us winning the Big 12 this year. And the only reason I say that is because we have a Heisman hopeful on Ollie Gordon II. Like that dude can really run the ball. But the Big 12 is a competitive conference. And last year, we went on the road, got embarrassed by Central Florida. We've gotten beaten up pretty good the last couple of years by the two schools in Kansas. Not to mention, like you mentioned, Kyle Whittingham and Utah being in the conference. So I just don't know. I'm really skeptical of our quarterback, Alan Bowman. He's a good dude, but he just throws a lot of interceptions and is very indecisive in the pocket. So if teams take away Ollie Gordon like they did last year in the games that we lost, it's up to Allen to then win the game for us. And he hasn't shown yet that he can do that. So if we had like the squad from a couple of years ago, like Spencer Sanders, well, I'd be all in. If we had that 2021 squad that went all the way to the Big 12 championship game, oh, I would definitely say like we should be the odds-on favorites. But because of the questions of quarterback and then some of the newcomers coming into the conference and even the people that have been here with us, I just can't confidently say like, yeah, Oklahoma State can get in there. I would probably pick us in the conference right now. I'd probably put us like fourth, maybe fifth, just because of the quarterback change in Central Florida. But definitely, we're behind Utah. I think Utah's the odds-on favorite, in my opinion, to win, and then the two Kansas schools to be ahead of us. Baylor's trying to rebuild, and Baylor's a team that low key scares me. They're the team that prevented us from getting into the college football playoff the last time we got really close. They've been using NIL to really turn their team around after the disappointing season that they had last year. So I'm kind of curious to see what they look like. That's the sleeper team. If I had to pick one, that might not be on a lot of people's radars. I would say keep an eye on Baylor, but for sure, if I'm a betting man, I'm putting my money on the Utes from Utah.
Yeah, I think Dave Aranda. I love Dave Aranda. Dave Aranda, he was a defensive coordinator at LSU when we won a national championship, and I've always been a fan of Dave Aranda. I thought LSU was going to try to lure him away from Baylor, because Dave's on the hot seat, man. Dave's on the hot
Yeah.
seat. Um, and like I said, I thought he was going to come back to LSU as a defensive coordinator, but he didn't. So wish nothing but the best for Dave. But I think Dave is on the hot seat, man. I think he's going to be the NFL after next season, coaching defense, or he going to find his way onto someone's staff as a as a defensive coordinator. He's a quality defensive coordinator. Hopefully, if he get fired, he don't end up back in the SEC. I don't want to see Dave. Yeah.
You don't want to go against them, huh?
Nah, I don't want to go against him. I'd rather he be on the LSU team than for us to go against him. All right, so look, we're gonna go ahead and pivot to the NFL, man. We're gonna pivot to the NFL. There's a lot of stuff going around in the NFL. Caleb Williams asking for no trade. Asking for that special clause where they couldn't use the franchise tag on him, all of that stuff, and you got a lot of stuff going on in the NFL, but what we're going to be talking about is Trevor Lawrence, right? Our boy Trevor Lawrence, the boy wonder. It was calling him when he was in college, saying that he was the best prospect to come out of college since Andrew Luck and all of that stuff, right? So he recently got paid. I don't have his contract numbers up in front of me. Forgive me, but he recently got paid. And he's a starting quarterback down in Jacksonville, but he's so far has had a very mediocre NFL career. I saw somewhere that Gardner Minshew has slightly better stats than him. Oh, Gardner Minshew, right? So question is can Trevor Lawrence live up to the hype? I'll let you go first. The contract hype. I'll try to find his numbers real fast.
I believe he can. Um, if for no other reason outside of his talent, than because of the team that's around him. having Travis Etienne in the backfield. They lost Calvin Ridley, so I'm kind of curious to see how their receiving core is going to look. But between having to start running back, Evan Ingram stepping up and playing really well last year, and then not to mention having Doug Peterson as the head coach, and they got a pretty good defense on the other side. I don't see why he can't live up to that contract. It's not like other situations where you got a really talented quarterback, but because you paid him, you don't really have anything else to build around with the other aspects of the team. But Jacksonville did it the right way. Everybody's on a rookie contract or a team-friendly deal, so yeah, definitely, I think he can make some noise in the AFC South. The competition is going to be pretty steep though, because if Anthony Richardson can stay healthy, I think the Colts will give them a problem. We've seen what C.J. Stroud did, and then if Will Levis can continue to prove his naysayers wrong in Tennessee, it's going to be a 14 race for that AFC South title, and then it's going to be up to guys like Trevor Lawrence to be able to step up to the plate, carry the team over the hump, and get them to that division title and into the playoffs. So, yeah, I'm excited, but I think he has a good chance to do it, like I said, because of the pieces that are around him in Jacksonville.
Yeah, so his contract, I got it up in front of me. His contract overall is $275 million. It's a lot of money. So I'm just going to go read it. I'm reading it right now from sportstrack.com. So Trevor Lawrence signed a 5-year, $275 million contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars, including 37.5. So 37.5 get a 37.5 signing bonus, right? That's in millions. And the contract, and he said, and 200 million of the contract was fully guaranteed. And so his annual salary, an annual salary of $55 million. That's wild. So Trevor Lawrence, okay, $37 million, his signing bonus, right? 37.5. That's already enough money. That's generational wealth for me and you, right? For our kids, right? And the contract is guaranteed up to $200 million. So what hype? He ain't got to live up to nothing because he's already paid. He's paid. Now,
I feel like there is still that risk, because how many times have we seen in recent NFL history dudes get the bag and then all of a sudden fold? Like, I don't think anybody expects him to be this bad, but like, let's not forget. Remember how badly Washington got burned a couple of years ago when they gave Albert Haynesworth that big free agent contract? So you got to be careful with who you sign, but I think he can do
it. Yeah, I'm saying that because I'm saying that, like, even if he don't, I know he's not going to be a Jamarcus Russell, but the amount of money, the amount of money that he got guaranteed, he's set for life.
Yeah, football don't work out. He's definitely set.
But I think Trevor Lawrence is going to live up to I think he'll live up to the contract hype. I mean, what? Okay, before Trevor Lawrence, it was Nick Foles. Then it was Gardner Minshew.
Nick Foles got a big one.
Yeah, Gardner Minshew, right? And then it was Dwayne Gabbert, I think. So
you talking about down in Jacksonville? Yeah, it was. Geez, man, they've had some turmoil. There was David Garrard, then it was like Chad Henne, Blaine Gabbert, Nick Foles, Trevor Lawrence, Blake Bortles is in there too. Yeah, they've gone through some QBs over there.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, the ceiling is okay. Trevor Lawrence doesn't have. That's what I'm trying to say is he doesn't have a lot of competition to be an all-time great quarterback for the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? So, like you said, David Garrard, Blake Bortles, Chad Henne, Steve Berline, Byron Leftwich, right? I think between Byron Leftwich and David Garrard, I think that was some of the most exciting moments for me. I think who took him to the.
Don't forget Mark Brunell.
Yeah, Mark Brunell.
Mark Brunell had them close.
Yep, had them close, but they don't have a rich history of great quarterback plays. So, I think it's Trevor Lawrence, stays healthy and he just cut down on the interceptions. I think he'll be all right. they say when you have a family and have a kid, it changes your man. So him and the wife, he just had a kid in the off season. So maybe he may just be a little bit more grounded. He's been having some growing pains, but he definitely got the weapons. They definitely drafted Brian Thomas Jr., the big tight end out of, that dude would kill me if you heard that. The big wide receiver out of my school, LSU, right? They drafted him, right? So he finally has that connection, right? Like the Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, the Patrick Holmes, Kelsey, right? So they had Stephen Ridley last year, but Stephen Ridley, they got him on out of there. It just didn't work out. Now he's with the Tennessee Titans. But now they finally got a guy, right? A young guy, because Trevor Lawrence has only been in the league, 3 years? So he finally has that guy that he can grow with and have that connection with. So I'm rooting for Trevor Lawrence. I'm rooting for him. But like you said, that conference and that division it's gonna be a tough one. But I think he ultimately lives up to his contract hype, and who knows, he may bring him a Super Bowl.
I don't know about that one.
I ain't putting no money on. I ain't putting no money on it. But Duval. All right, so Rookie of the Year in the NFL. This is always controversial. I feel like the NFL rigs this, right? And you can already tell who's going to be the favorite based off pretty much the college football season, right? The senior year of these quarterbacks senior year, right? So I would say, and I didn't look at, I don't bet, I don't gamble, I didn't look at the odds, but I would say just based off of who they always bragging about, I would say that Caleb Williams is going to win it. It would have to be between Caleb Williams and my boy Jaden Daniels at Washington. But of course, they're going to try to get Bo Nix in that thing, and they say JJ McCarthy is a long shot, but they'll try to get JJ on the field sooner than later. But let's just go with the two bigger name quarterbacks, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, because both of those guys are going to be starters day one. I know Washington was trying to say that Jaden Daniels had to earn his starting spot, but you don't draft a guy that high if he's not the starting quarterback. So whatever, Washington, they can't get out of their way. But who you think out of those two guys, if you had to put your money on it, who you think is going to win the Rookie of the Year out of those two guys, those two quarterbacks?
Just because of the team around him, like kind of piggybacking off of what I said about Trevor Lawrence, I feel a lot more comfortable in the supporting cast in Chicago than I do about the one in Washington. So I would have to, if I had to choose between Jaden and Caleb, I would definitely choose Caleb. Caleb's got Keenan Allen and Roma Dunze. I think they got DeAndre Swift, the running back. Not to mention, still got DJ Moore. So they're going to be pretty good. The defense got better last year with some of the additions that they made at free agency and at the trade deadline. So I want to say Jaden because of his talent, but I just don't know about that offensive line. Sam Howell got sacked a lot last year. So now you're pretty much asking Jaden Daniels to go and play behind that same offensive line. He's definitely got some good skill position players at receiver and running back, but at the end of the day, it's all about keeping a quarterback upright. And if they can't protect him, it's going to be hard for him to showcase his talent. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Caleb on that one.
Yeah. So looking at the odds right now, again, I don't speak MGM Graham, but Caleb Williams is plus 135. Jaden Daniels, the Commanders quarterback, is plus 650. Marvin Harrison Jr., the wide receiver for the Cardinals, is plus 700. JJ McCarthy, the Vikings quarterback, is plus 1,200. Malik Neighbors for the Giants, the wide receiver, is plus 1,800. And then they got Xavier Worthy, Bo Nix, and the list goes on and on. But like I said, without even looking at it, I figured it's going to be Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels. But yeah, you're right. I mean, if Washington gets Brandon Ayuk, it seems like Brandon Ayuk's been kind of pushing to get traded, and he's been linking himself to the Washington Redskins. I feel like if they can get Brandon Ayuk in there with Scary Terry and Doxson, I think his name.
Jahan Doxson.
Yeah, I think Washington got a decent stable of running backs. Don't know who they tight end gonna be. I think Logan Thomas left or retired.
I think he retired.
He retired. Okay, so I don't know who the tight end is. I don't pay a lot of attention to Washington besides when they play the Eagles. Obviously I'm a little vested in them now because of Jaden Daniels. That's my guy out of LSU. But I'm an Eagles guy, and we play them twice a year. But yeah, I would have to put my eyes on. If I was betting, if I was a betting man, I would say Caleb Williams because Caleb Williams has a better team around him. But if I was being biased, I would say Jaden Daniels because obviously the connection to LSU, and that's my dude. But yeah, if I was a betting man, I put my money on Caleb Williams. If
Yeah,
Caleb Williams, if he just can stay healthy and not be a headache off the field with his demands, and hopefully he don't jump in the crowd and cry again.
no, I don't think Caleb's going to give you any off the field issues. Just based off everything that he did in college. I mean, you got to remember, homie was a Heisman Trophy winner living in Los Angeles, California. I feel like it'd be really easy to get into trouble or do something stupid or be a headache, in that type of environment. But he went through his whole college career, and like I think the worst thing that you can say about him was, excuse me, crying at the press conference. But to be real with you, Darrell, I think. I wish that there was an opportunity for a position outside of quarterback to win that award because we've seen dudes at other skill positions on offense come in and light the NFL up like Puka Nacua did last year, for example. But unfortunately, that is a quarterback-driven award like most other awards in the National Football League. So if you got to go with a QB, I would go with Caleb. But outside of the QB, I would say don't sleep on Keon Coleman up in Buffalo from Florida State. That dude can ball, especially with him being the number one receiver undisputed up there and having a quarterback like Josh Allen. I think he's going to put up some numbers next year.
Yeah, yeah. Keon Coleman from my hometown. I don't know him. I never met him, but I heard of him when he was in high school at OC.
Word.
High school, it's a private school, a Catholic school in my hometown, Appleton, Louisiana. All right, so we're gonna finish up with everyone's favorite sports villain, the troll, uh, Skip Bayless. So Skip Bayless is finally leaving FS1. Uh, the day that Skip Bayless disrespected Shannon Sharp and pretty much went to the Fox people and said, "Hey, buy out his contract," that show was failing. I was reading that when Shannon Sharp and Skip was in their heyday, that show was drawing in over 500,000 views. Once Shannon Sharp left and Skip Bayless like reshuffled his deck, bringing on Bubba Dub and Lil Wayne and Paul Pierce and Keyshawn Johnson and Richard Sherman, who him and Richard Sherman don't even like each other, Rachel Nichols, that show was barely pulling in 45,000 viewers, right? And so it just goes to show you that Skip Bayless was too full of himself, and he thought that, hey, I did this before with Stephen A. Smith. I did it again with Shannon Sharp. I can do it again without Shannon Sharp, and it's not happening. So FS1 probably seen the ratings tanking, and it was like, hey, this ain't working. You got to go sit down. Now, I said that the feeling was mutual, but that feeling wasn't mutual. FS1 called that boy in there and said, hey, man, you 77 years old, 8 years old. Go ahead and go home and set it down. You can have your podcast, which nobody watches his podcast either. And
Yeah, I've heard.
yeah, so his last show is going to be sometimes this summer. And so, what do you think about Skip Bayless leaving FS1? You think it's going to hurt FS1? You think it's going to help?
It's tough to say if it's really going to hurt them any more than it already has. Like you mentioned with their ratings, First Take is really the premier place to be. Weekday mornings when you're looking for your sports talk fix. Um, I think going forward they're gonna have to try to find somebody else to kind of like build their daytime block around. I saw that they just extended. Well, I shouldn't say extended, but expanded. Speak for yourself. That's gonna be like a 3 hour show going forward now. You still got Colin Coward who's doing his thing really well. And then you got Speak, which I think is starting to gain some traction and gain an audience there as well with their diverse panel and cast. But they got some different avenues to go forward. And then
I
not to
heard I
mention,
said they looking at Shaq.
if they brought Shaq on, I don't know how that would work because I don't know how well Shaq can talk other sports. I've never really heard him talk about like football or baseball or anything like that. Definitely, during NBA season, he's going to be a big help. But outside of that, I don't know. If it were me, and I was one of the executives at Fox, I would try to switch up the formula a little bit. I feel like with the way ESPN has transitioned their programming, you no longer have like how we had back in the day, Sports Center in the morning, catching up on the latest news from overnight, showing you highlight plays and all that good stuff. But I think the last live Sports Center on ESPN ends at like 9 a.m. So if I was FS1, I would maybe think about bringing back Fox Sports Live or something like that, one of their former shows, just to kind of fill that block and bring back what a lot of the audience is missing, and maybe get away from the whole two-person debate team. I think
Yeah,
if Skip,
I feel like that
yeah,
two-person debate thing is kind of getting old now because they talk about the same thing over and over again. The Lakers, the Cowboys, and it's just
especially at ESPN, bro. Like,
I wouldn't be shocked if Fox tries to leverage Tom Brady in some way in that time slot. Now I don't know if Tom Brady know anything about basketball, but he's the big fish at Fox now.
yep,
And so I would not be shocked if Tom Brady wasn't if Tom Brady didn't figure out how to do something with Tom Brady. I also seen something else where so Pat McAfee, and this is my little conspiracy. Pat McAfee has never finished a contract anywhere he's been. He's never finished a contract anywhere. Not with Barstool Sports, and not with the other little spot that he was with before Barstool
FanDuel,
Sports. Yeah. And he owns his show, right?
yeah,
So ESPN pays him to do his show on their platform. But as we all know, if you watch Pat McAfee, he's kind of like called out the ESPN big dogs, right? Him and
yeah,
Stephen A. Smith don't get along, right? There's been some bickering back and forth between him, Stephen A. Smith. Um, ESPN had to let a lot of people go, Steve Young, a lot of big names, so they could pay Pat McAfee. And Pat McAfee has not been drawing in the views that ESPN thought that he would be drawing in, right? He's not been a viewer, Kyle, like Stephen A. Smith is, right? And Shannon Sharp and all those people. So I would not be shocked if Pat McAfee made a dash back over to Fox Sports, because Pat McAfee is like a higher mercenary, right? Like I said, he's never finished a contract anywhere he's been. Him and Stephen A. don't really get along, and he's already kind of had like some beef with the behind the scenes. Because if you notice, Pat McAfee brings in anybody. He is with ESPN, instead of bringing in Woj for basketball, he brings in some other guy. He brings in
yeah.
guys. He brings in guys from FS1. He brings in guys from ESPN. He brings in guys from all over to talk about what's going on. He brings in what's his name? Uh Aaron Rodgers, who said who said a lot of crazy stuff
Yeah,
on air. And so I would not be shocked if it ended up being some type of like Tom Brady, Pat McAfee panel, because Pat McAfee guys can talk loosely about sports, right? Like basketball and everything. They're kind of almost like their takes are kind of like dumbfounded, where they'll bring up a take on basketball and they'll be like, "Oh, we didn't even know that." They'll say something like, "Wow," right? But I can definitely see them using like the aura of Tom Brady to bring in views, because if Tom Brady is allowed to speak almost like Frank, like Shannon Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless was, right? Because Shannon Sharp was calling some people called Shannon Sharp called Baker Mayfield a clown. If
I hated that.
everyone would kind of love to hear what Tom Brady would have to say about certain situations. Although I think Tom Brady will take it easy, he would like not be so heavy to criticize his fellow quarterbacks and his fellow NFL players. I wouldn't be
Especially
shocked.
he's actively calling games,
Yep.
for Fox. So, yeah, you got to be careful with that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if I saw them try to get something like that going on over there at FS1, because the spot that Skip Bayless is going to be leaving, that's the prime time spot, and that's the same time that ESPN First Take is on, and so they're going to need someone to rival that slot, because those guys are going to start to siphon over to ESPN First Take. Even though I don't think Shannon Sharp is as good on First Take as he was on Undisputed, but I mean, I don't even watch anything that Shannon Sharp does anymore. Like, nothing against Shannon Sharp, it's just I just can't really. I'm not a big fan of Stephen A. Smith, and so yeah, I don't like Stephen A. I like Stephen A. Smith. Like his politics is just kind of something that just makes me not a fan of him, and so I don't just I don't. When Shannon Sharp said, "Hey, I'm going over to ESPN and I'm joining up with Stephen A. Smith," I was like, "All right, I'll watch Club Shay Shay and when he do things on Ocho, but I'm not tuning in to watch ESPN First Take with Stephen A. Smith." But yeah, I don't know, man. You know, Skip Bayless has made a living off saying LeBron James was one of the worst players in the NBA, criticizing everything LeBron James doing, and being a Tom Brady worshiper and a Baker Mayfield worshiper. So you just get tired of hearing the same old voice. And so I think he's 77 years old, 78 years old. He's a multi-millionaire over again. He can go home with the wife and the dogs, and they ain't got no kids, so they can travel, and maybe he can have his own podcast that he already have on YouTube, but just bring in some hosts like Richard Sherman or Michael Parsons or whoever else he want to bring in, and maybe he can still see money that way, which he don't need any money, but I think he'll just really double down on his own podcast.
I wouldn't be mad at it. The only thing you said that I'm like kind of unsure on is them bringing in Pat McAfee. Just because like with Fox, with it being still a network television company, and them being on that side of the fence instead of being strictly on cable, I don't um I don't know if they would allow Pat McAfee to be uncensored. You know what I mean? Like on ESPN, he can talk freely. He can cuss. He can do whatever. Because that's one of the things that'll separate his show from the other ones is his unfilteredness. But if he were to go to Fox, I don't know if that would be able to continue. I'm gonna be real with you. Be honest. One another alternative for Fox, they could try to replicate a little bit of what NFL Network did with Good Morning Football. I personally watch Good Morning Football the most in the mornings when I watch like my morning sports shows, because when I watch Get Up or when I watch First Take or Undisputed, it's always the same rotation of topics, the same teams, always Dallas, LeBron, the Lakers. But when you watch something like Good Morning Football, they talk about a variety of different topics. It's always interesting. It's always something different. Jason McCourty's a free agent, so if they wanted to holler at him, they could. Now that he's not moving over with them, but I would say in the mornings they could try to recreate maybe like another version of Good Morning Football, where it just feels like you have a round table of people with different personalities and different perspectives talking about sports in a way where it doesn't feel like you're watching a studio sports talk show, but just like you and I are doing right now. It just feels like you have some everyday people being able to talk about sports.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. It's definitely interesting. But yeah, man. So we're gonna wrap it up, right? I appreciate you coming on the show. We had a good, healthy conversation about a couple of different topics. We definitely got to get you back on. We got to get Reek back on
sure.
too. Definitely gotta. I'm looking to do something like this more often. But I'm looking to also venture into like something a little bit more unorthodox. Like we talk about sports and pop culture and current events, right? So I got something in the works. I already like started another channel. I haven't posted anything on it yet because I'm looking for like the right the right co-host to do it with. And obviously, I'm a father. You got your family, so and then the other guys got their families too. So it's kind of hard. But I'm probably going to be doing like kind of like a round table of different hosts to talk about different topics on that channel. So I'll definitely get up with y'all and let y'all know. But I appreciate you coming on here, man. Talking to the people. Before we sign off, let the people know like where they can find you out on social media, your email, how they can get in contact with you. You want to shout out a business or whatever, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, I bring tidings from the Real to Sports podcast. You can find us live on YouTube every Thursday and Saturday. Thursdays we tend to talk about professional wrestling, and then on Saturdays we talk about the latest news from the NFL and the NBA. We have a group on Facebook called the Real to Sports Group. That's Real the number two Sports. You can find us on Facebook. Actually join. We talk and debate sports 24 hours a day in there, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, definitely come check out the Road to Sports podcast. We bring you a wide variety of different sports topics from basketball, football, pro wrestling, you name it, we cover it. So come on and stop by and say hello.
All right, and I will put you guys' links and stuff in the comments, the bio of this episode, so people can find y'all. All right, y'all.
Appreciate you.
So until next time, it's been good, and we holler at y'all.